we go.
Hey, Eric.
How are you?
I'm good. I just took a drink and now I'm coughing.
Oh, congratulations. I
Well, nice.
want to make sure that we're running here because I had to change the. I'll make sure we're good to go here because I put the restream. There we go. Yeah, we're on. Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Lullove Report. I am Dr. Eric Lullove. You guys have seen me on the Diegene Show with Nick Perro and Walter Ryan and Evan Fields. So I have the pleasure. This is a real pleasure for me this morning, actually, to have John Liccione. Did I pronounce your last name correctly?
Liccione.
Liccione. Right. I should know that, right? Freaking Italians. Okay. So I have John Liccione, who is running for Congress, Democratic candidate in Florida 13. So hopefully through the primary process, gets through the primary, and we'll be facing off against Representative Luna, who we're going to get to in a minute. But John, why don't you introduce yourself to everybody out there in Substack world? And
Okay. Yes, John Liccione. I'm a son of and grandson of Italian immigrants. Came through Ellis Island in the 20s. I'm not sure why we can't continue to do that today humanely, but my family, those are my roots. My dad was a lawyer who defended children and got them out of abusive homes. He's a defender of children, chief attorney for social services in Oneida County, New York for years. And I never really understood my dad. He was working two jobs, going to night school. And it wasn't until I turned like 63 and I ran for Congress in 2023, 2024 that I realized I'd grown up just like him. And now it's my turn. I'm an engineer, electrical engineer, cybersecurity executive, and U.S. Air Force NSA veteran, enlisted. I worked for a living. I was a staff sergeant, decorated intelligence analyst, Korean linguist. And I bring these sort of MacGyver mix of skills to this problem, to solving our problems now. And so that's a little bit about my background and my history. And it turns out that I chose engineering when I went to college, University of Maryland. But
you're a Terrapin.
I'm a Terp, yes.
You're a Terp.
School of Electrical Engineering, which is the first time I ever became an advocate for an issue. I advocated, I created a new student advisory committee in the IEEE student chapter, internet. And I lobbied and got petitions to reduce the class lecture sizes for the first 2-year students, where we weren't getting properly taught by the TAs that they'd bring in that could barely speak English. And so I rallied the troops and pitched the director of the school, the electrical engineering school, and we got the class sizes reduced from 200 down to 40 while I was still there. And I was like, wow, that's the first time I'd ever taken a stand publicly and lobbied support. So, and my last, I am an engineer, but in my last semester, I took this constitutional law elective because I couldn't graduate unless I took some elective, right? And it was the funnest class, awesome class that I've ever had. And I realized maybe I was just about to graduate. Maybe I should get into going to law school, but I decided not to. And but the law is in my blood, and I learned a bit of it at my daddy's knee. He'd taken me to the law library, and that particular skill set, I'm not a lawyer yet, has brought me to where I am today, where I've just filed for an emergency injunction to stop the DeSantis map implementation here in Florida.
I definitely want to get into that. So yeah. I want to get into it, but I don't want to preempt everybody yet. So I'd like to get a little bit more people in the chat. But so my first question to you is one that I asked Victoria Doyle last week. So what was your aha moment to run? What was it? What was the stimulus and the impetus for you to sit, and say, okay, I have to do this. Now is the time that I need to run for Congress.
Well, that moment came in 2023 when I moved down to Florida for the second time. And I didn't know who my representative was, but I founded Russie Leaks to expose Putin's secrets in defense of democracy, not America's, back in 22 after Putin invaded Ukraine. And so I invested my own money. I founded this media platform, Rusty Leaks. It's like the anti-Putin wiki. And I'm fighting that fight, right? Supporting Ukraine, hiring Ukraine folks in country and all this. I moved down to Florida from DC. I look, well, who's my rep? Oh, okay. What's she all about? Anna Paulina Luna. And I realized that she had just signed in February 23 the Ukraine fatigue resolution to cut off all U.S. military funding for Ukraine.
She did that.
Right? And then I looked at it, and there were 12 co-sponsors. Well, Matt Gaetz was the lead, and then there were 12 co-sponsors. Lauren Boebert. The what do they call them? The Freedom Coalition, I guess, or caucus. And Lauren Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene and Luna, right? And so the four, I call them Putin puppets gone wild. And I realized my own representative is like diametrically opposed to my mission, which was to defeat Russia, right? Both in cyberspace here in America and their child sex trafficking operations they've got running along with this part of the Epstein network. And I realized that, so I ran. I ran in 2020. I filed a run and got my butt kicked in the primary. And I won't get into that story, and then I ran for Gulfport, Florida mayor, where I was living, because I hadn't had enough punishment yet. So I ran for Gulfport mayor I filed last November or November 25, and I didn't win that race either. And I was like exhausted. I was like, that was like March 25. And so I founded, what I did was I'm an entrepreneur. I founded a new tech startup called Ballateer, which is sort of like, we make elections tenable. That's our slogan. Defending the integrity of our elections, which includes the right to vote, the right to have your vote counted accurately, as well as defending our elections from things like hackers and gerrymanders like we're going through right now, which is just one of many modes to hack an election, right? I'm a systems engineer, so I look at this system that we have. And so I was working on Ballateer, right? Developing the software to make elections tenable, basically. And then Renee Gooden and Alex Preddy got murdered. And that was it. That was it. I was done. I am not going to sit on the sidelines just because I spent all my life savings trying to win the last time. I'm going for it again. And that was the aha moment. It wasn't the aha moment. It was the, stand up and fight moment again. So
I just wanted to give everybody an overview of the Florida 13th district. I mean, you live in the district, it's where you live, but I wanted to give people an idea of what, like, geographically where it is in Florida. So if you're familiar with west coast of Florida, it is Pinellas County for the most part. It is roughly the district as it sits right now, before the redistricting, pretty much was the area north of St. Petersburg, which included Largo and Tarpon Springs. And this area has had some pretty good representative history in Florida. Connie Mack, Charlie Crist, I think other Congress people that like Catherine Harris, who is the when she was serving at the state. So David Jolly formerly represented the district. So this has been a very fertile ground, I would want to say, for Florida Congress people who eventually move on to bigger and better things in their careers. I don't want to say the same thing about Anna Luna. So I think she needs to go down very quickly. But David Jolly, currently from your district, is running for governor. I'm not totally convinced yet about David Jolly. I know that he's probably the lesser of the two evils that we're going to have to do, but I'm not 1,000% on him personally. And he's more than welcome to reach out to me. I'm more than happy to have an interview with him on Substack and Restream and pick his brain more about what he wants to do for Florida. But I do have my reservations because he was a Republican and voted pretty much against a lot of self-interest stuff that was important for Floridians all those years.
Right.
And
I just was at an event with Dave Jolly the other.
Okay, yeah, if you could shed any light on that, that'd be great.
Yeah, I can, and I can hook you guys up. Right. So
yeah, thank you.
He's based right here in Pinellas, so That's his base.
So let's get into the redistricting, because this is now your hill you have gone to die on. This is it. This is your hamburger hill. For sake of argument. So for those of people that don't know, Florida, as part of all this redistricting mess that the country's gone through, we have been under Republican rule in Florida for approximately 30 years. We now have the highest inflation in the country. We have the highest inflation rate out of any state in the country, surpassing that of New York, California, Michigan, Wisconsin. And we have a governor who has literally, for sake of argument, pretty much abandoned the people of Florida, and for the sake of calling and bending the knee to President Poopy Shitting Pants. So,
and don't forget the lowest paid teachers in the nation.
And the lowest paid. We are losing teachers left and right here.
Yeah,
and I do believe I just saw the budget come through where they are literally going after blue school districts. They're even cutting them even more. So this is the part where they just want people not only stupid, but also broke and sick. And this is a state that did not do Medicaid expansion. This is a state that has more. We don't have a lot of corporate businesses, like big time companies that are big employers in Florida, other than the university systems and Disney and maybe a couple bigger companies down in Miami. But we don't have these large corporate we're not like Minneapolis, which has a lot of healthcare sector field employers. And we don't have a lot of area like in Boston, where there's a lot of healthcare, or in Detroit, where it's automakers. We have a lot of independent business people here, a lot of entrepreneurs and gig workers and service people, and they rely a lot on the ACA.
Yeah. We also got some good defense contractors too that are arming the arsenal, keeping the arsenal of democracy going. So
yeah. And not so much where I live on the southeast portion of the state, but more West Coast and up to where you are, Pensacola, with the defense, with up that way. But so get into this redistricting lawsuit injunction that you are trying to. I mean, this is a massive disenfranchisement anyway. So we know what the story is around the Southern Belt and all the red states that are thinking they're going to steal seats from everybody. But when you're 31%, I don't know how much you're going to have an effect on congressional seat maps. But I want to hear from you.
All right, let me lay the foundation for this. So this is the second wave in 6 years, 4 years.
Yeah, they just did this like in 20.
So when Charlie Crist ran in 2020, Luna ran in 2020, and she got beat by, I don't know, like 24,000 votes, right? Mm-hmm. And that so she got beat by Crist, and so in 2022, DeSantis passed Map 1. I call Wave 1 of the Lunar Protection Racket, and this is in my Substack article on this lawsuit. When I filed it, I posted an article about this Lunar Protection Racket, and so what they did was they went across Tampa Bay to District 14, which was too blue to lose anyway, and they reached across Tampa Bay and then deported about, I can't remember the exact number, let's say 40,000 Democratic votes across Tampa Bay. They basically deported the Democratic votes, and Republicans too, mind you. But this was downtown St. Pete, southeast St. Pete, the black neighborhoods in South. So basically, they gerrymandered all the liberals out of St. Pete.
Yeah.
And deported them over. And so their votes were disenfranchised. Their votes for Kathy Castor were added no value, right? So Kathy Castor won. She beat Rocky Roquefort by a big margin. But here in Pinellas County, that made the difference. Luna beat Eric Lynn by, I think it was 7 points or 5 points. It was a 27,000 vote margin, right? 27,000. So we're still in the 20K range. So that was wave 1. That was an invasion from the east, right? This wave 2 is an invasion from the south. Manatee County is the anchor county for District 16. And it is a supermajority Republican district already. And what? So now we have an invasion from the south across two bays, Tampa Bay and another one called Boca Ciega Bay. And they've invaded the beaches of South Pinellas County. I'm laughing, but they've literally invaded through our beaches. They've established this massive beachhead on Pinellas County. You know, we're a peninsula on a peninsula, and we're talking about the southern tip of this peninsula, and they've invaded all the way up to the they've split Seminole in half, St. Petersburg in half, and it goes all the way up our beach community, you know, our Bear Island beach communities, all the way up to the Reddington Shores up to Park Boulevard. So they basically captured and deported about 103,000 what I call anti-Luna bloc voters. And that anti-Luna bloc consists of the Republicans that can't stand Anna Luna, and there are a lot of Reagan Republicans that know she abandoned us in the two hurricanes and didn't fight for us for FEMA money. And that's in the lawsuit, by the way. And then they're the NPAs, right? Which this time around, with Luna throwing us under the bus after the hurricanes, there are a lot of those NPAs and Republicans that lost their homes because of disaster recovery fraud with a company called Tidal Basin that was filing fake substantial damage claims. People that couldn't afford to rebuild had to walk away and lose their retirement homes. And I was running for Gulfport mayor, and Gulfport's one of the towns that got deported at the time. And people were coming to me as a candidate saying, these Tidal Basin people are ripping us off. We're going to lose our homes, and the big the hedge funds and the private equity firms are rolling in and snapping up these, fire sale value, destroyed, damaged homes, and they're and building $2 million homes on this, little plot. So that's sort of the shtick that's going on with this Tidal Basin company, and they donated to, there it is. So let me stop here for a second.
Yeah.
How many people we got on the live so far? So if
we have about 20 right now. So yeah.
Okay, so if you look at D13 on the West Coast, that's Pinellas County, and what they did was D16 is below, and it's hard to see on this map, but that's Tampa Bay below the purple D13. If you go down below where it says St. Petersburg, that little inlet's actually Tampa Bay.
Right here.
And so the green D16 has invaded us over Tampa Bay. They've come over the Skyway Bridge, and they've gone all the way up to center of Seminole and such, and captured all of those votes. And D17 is it's a supermajority Republican district. So those voters who are actually all the voters that have been deported into D16, their votes don't matter anymore, because the Republicans' votes, they're already going to win without them. So the Republican votes for Congress aren't going to matter. They're not going to make a difference. The Democratic voters aren't going to matter. They're stealing those votes. And the NPAs that want to, whether they want to vote for Luna or not, they're not going to matter either, right? So it's about 250,000, maybe 230,000 residents, kids, non-registered voters. About 250,000 people just lost their Pinellas County congressional representative. So that's what this does. And so what my lawsuit is, there's a couple of lawsuits that have been filed. The first one was filed by Mark Elias, Democracy Docket. He beat me to the court by, I think it was 8 hours or 9 hours. This was enacted on the 4th of May. And at like 10 o'clock that night, I filed my lawsuit here in Pinellas County in the 6th District Court. Elias filed his earlier that day up in Tallahassee in the 2nd Circuit Court. And the difference between the two it's really important, because they're not, what's the right word? They're like mutually supportive and different in a way that makes the whole case for stopping this map stronger, rescinding this map stronger.
So like one of the things I noticed, and I was in the old Florida 22, so which is now Florida 23. And what they've done, and this would piss me off. If I lived in Naples, I'd be livid right now, because Naples was, I think it was 17.
Mm-hmm.
And what they've done now is they've they've taken 22, which is Western Palm Beach County, and now they've incorporated all of that into Naples. So you've put some Big Sugar and like Western Palm Beach County communities, which is basically Pahokee and minority communities, into this Naples district. And it's literally like, for those of you that don't really understand Florida, like Florida, you could break Florida into like 4 different states.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, like you've got Southeast Florida, which is like kind of like your East Coast, New York, Jersey, Connecticut, Pennsylvania. Then you've got your West Coast of Florida, which is more Midwestish, more, Chicago, Detroit, St. Louis, like that typical Midwestern feel. Then you've got like North Central and Northeastern Florida, which is going to be more like kind of like Southern Georgia. And then you've got Pensacola, which is like basically Alabama, Mississippi. And you can't start mixing communities of the East Coast with congressional representation, because the representative from 22 isn't going to necessarily understand what the residents in Palm Beach County who live in the western parts in the farmland communities are going to want, the same things that the people who live in Naples.
Right. And that's the very reason they have these geographically compact. That's the Constitution now in Florida.
Right.
The geographic compactness of the district, it actually, and it has to have not too many people, right? It's like 700 something thousand. You can't go much above that. And then you can't protect an incumbent or do it for partisan reasons. Those are actually 2 different things here.
Yes, they are.
Because an incumbent could be Kathy Castor, who's the incumbent, for example. It could be Democrat or Republican. In this case, it's a lunar protection racket in this county, right? And so those are the 2 constitutional prongs that exist. There are subsections of that part of the constitutional amendment.
Oh, and they did the same thing for Brian Mast in 21. They basically protected Brian Mast in D21. And what they've basically done is, if you really look at the map, and I could throw the map up again, but it's they've carved up, basically what they did was they took northern Broward County, pretty much all of western Palm Beach County, and dumped it into the Naples district, where they know it's a heavy, hard lean Republican seat.
Mm-hmm.
And what they've done is they've just basically minimized all of the southeastern Florida Democratic seats. So, and then they kind of minimized Orlando. So the spread in Orlando isn't in D10. It's not as big as it used to be. And they did the same thing in Jacksonville.
Hey, if you could bring that map back up, take
sure.
a look at Tampa, what they did to Tampa in District 14. They just destroyed Kathy Castor's margin. But I call this,
pull it back up again. Hang on.
They pinwheeled Tampa. They pinwheeled District 14. So when you look at the change on that map, you'll see 3 penetrations into metropolitan Tampa from the east to west. Yeah, can you zoom in on that a little bit?
Yep, I'm heading over there right now. Yeah, so here's Tampa. Here's Tampa right here.
You see the pinwheel? You got the brown, the green, and the whatever.
So yeah, what they've done is they split Tampa between 12, 14, and 15.
Yeah.
Right here.
The Tampa pinwheel gerrymander.
Right there. So if I was living in Tampa, I'd be livid right now.
Yeah.
And the thing is, there's been zero communication from, say, like the Palm Beach Supervisor of Elections, that, for example, like they still have not updated the polling centers, because I think as part of your lawsuit and along with Mark Elias's lawsuit was that they've been told to not release any more information regarding election educational information.
Well, that's starting to break right now, and so I got some info on that, some intel on that. So I'm part of the Pinellas County Democratic Senior Caucus as a member, and they had a tour at Pinellas County Supervisor Elections, and I couldn't make it because I was filing this lawsuit, and so I had to, I couldn't go, but they don't like me very much over there because I'm suing them, right? And this is the 3rd time I've sued them. They're the 3rd defendant. The Pinellas County, Julie Marcus is the Pinellas County Supervisor Elections. She's in charge of implementing the new map in Pinellas County, right?
Okay.
And the way they implement the map is in software called Voter Focus, which is the company is VR Systems.
Mm-hmm.
And VR Systems run the Voter Focus software is the election management software, not the vote counting, the ballot counting.
Right. They're the management software. Right?
So they run the voter registration system, the election management system, the vote by mail processing system, the vote by mail ballot processing system, with the Voter Focus and related ancillary add-ons. So that's and they also do the electronic poll books in the polling stations. So that's called eVid. So you got Voter Focus and eVid, right? So under the law in Florida, the first vote by mail activity report in any upcoming election has to be transmitted to the supervisor elections 60 days before the election, if it's a statewide election. That date is the deadline for implementing the new map on the ground in Pinellas County and in all 67 supervisor elections counties, in every county. So that's about what are we at? The 19th, let's say round up to 20. So we're 20 days, 30 days away, I guess.
30 days. They have about a month. Yeah.
Right. So what that means is it's an emergency, right? And DeSantis did this deliberately. He delayed beyond what he was going to the implementation of this map. So that only left like 45 days total, right? Because it was implemented on the 4th of May. So they're scrambling to implement this new election definition, the new precinct definitions, who's in what congressional district, the ballots have to be changed. Now, normally, when they finish up the last election, there's an election instance, if you will, that has all the definitions in the schema, the database. And so normally they just run this batch import into the next election, and then they make any small changes they might have to make. But when you do a redistricting like this, you can't batch import the old election definition. You can't. Yeah, and so I imagine, I don't know this yet, but I'm going to find out in Discovery, how much overtime is this costing, right? How many contractors, are you paying? How many more people you got to pay VR Systems to help you implement this new map? Because you only got a couple weeks, right? So it's a lot of work and to execute, and they make mistakes, and I've exposed software defects in Voter Focus that falsified. I'm going off topic here, but Voter Focus and VR Systems is at the core of this, right? And I discovered over the last 18 months with these forcing lawsuits, election integrity lawsuits, that VR Systems had designed defective Voter Focus software feature that generated falsified vote by mail election reports. Official election records were falsified. How falsified, you may ask? Some up to 99.59% false. And when I say false, I'm talking about numbers of voters that have a false record in official election records. And they publish them to me and other candidates and party members by statute. So I ended up suing them because the falsified records indicated on their face that massive mail ballot fraud had occurred. If you believe the election bank statements, just like if you believe your real bank, your financial bank statements, who would have ever thought that any bank would ever publish knowingly a falsified bank statement to its customers, right? Well, here we have an election bank. It's the same sort of tech, right? It's transaction processing, it's records, it's statements, monthly, daily statements. They were knowingly publishing from the date I served my lawsuit on them in 2024, August 27th. They knew that their vote by mail records were fake, and they kept publishing them. 75 more falsified vote by mail reports in the general election. So this core. So I've been suing Julie Marcus and have Republicans for the same exact anomaly, and I discovered it was a software bug. I got a smoking gun email out of the supervisor elections. It proves they knew it was a software defect. They kept publishing them anyway. So there's all that controversy that I've been fighting for 18. What is it?
I try to wrap my head around the fact that okay, I understand I live in a red state. I get it. It wasn't red when I moved here. It was pretty purple. The state voted for Obama in 2008, but It has gone hard red the last 4 or 5 election cycles. And does it break this year? I don't know. I think the fix has already been in. I think what really pisses me off more is we had an attorney general that was appointed to the Senate. She was never elected. And because of that, we're talking about Ashley Moody, right? Who has
you mean Commie Cash Ashley?
Yes.
Who's been taking Chinese Communist Party money?
Yeah, she has been.
Yeah.
Bingo.
So has Luna. So has Luna.
And so has Maria Salazar. And so has,
Pam Bondi,
Ron
DeSantis,
yep.
and Susie Wiles up at
I am trying to figure out when people in Florida wake up, because this is 30 years of corruption.
Here's where they wake up. Right now, the Republican who's primarying Ashley Moody right now, Chris Gleason's right here in Largo, and we're election integrity buddies. We're both, we don't agree on a lot of the, the political stuff, but when it comes to election integrity, the right to vote, accuracy, and all that, he's a man of honor, and I respect that. And we pass notes back and forth on this topic. He's primarying Ashley Moody, and he has outed this Republican senatorial candidate out of Pinellas County, Chris Gleason, has filed an OFAC complaint against Ashley Moody. He's filed these criminal complaints already. It's public record now.
Really?
Right? And
has she responded in discovery yet, or has she even responded? Or
according to Chris, he said they've not responded, which means the problem is the FEC doesn't have a quorum right now. Right. So that's by design.
Of course.
Thank you, Trump. This is all part of the same corrupt system that goes up to the White House. Actually, it goes all the way to the Kremlin, if you really want to be honest.
Or the Knesset.
The lesser of three evils. Four evils. You've got Putin, you've got Z, you've got Iran, which is a ridiculous, awful war that we're fighting for no good reason. But anyway, I won't go down that thing. But as far as this gerrymander lawsuit, I call it a lunar protection racket. There's actually 3 prongs to the lunar protection racket. It's the gerrymander. It's wave 1 and 2 of the gerrymander to protect Luna's seat, because she can't win unless she gets, the grift in. Number 2 is the fact that the James Uthmeyer, the AG in Florida, and Ron DeSantis, and the state attorney here in Pinellas County, Bruce Bartlett, will not bring charges against Anna Paulina Luna for taking Chinese Communist Party money, and for acting not only as knowingly taking Chinese Communist Party money into her PACs and in her campaign, but acting as an unregistered agent for Russia by giving a tour in the U.S. Capitol of sitting Russian Duma members who are sanctioned. She's literally lobbying into the U.S. Congress, physically, literally, on behalf of Russian politicians that are in office, right? So that's like a double whammy. She's taking money from China. She's acting as an unregistered foreign Russian agent for Putin.
But the constituents don't hear this because it doesn't get reported on local news stations. It doesn't get reported at the national level because there is the complete suppression of anything that would impugn a Republican legislature right now. And you just don't hear about that. Where's the local Tampa station reporting this? Why isn't it? Why? Well, that's, why, because they're owned by Sinclair.
Well, let's talk about the captured media. That's a good point. So here locally on the ground in the regional part of that, you've got the Tampa Bay Times. Now, the Tampa Bay Times did break the news on the Tidal Basin scandal, but it took them. I broke the news 4 months before they did on my own media outlet called The Crabber News back in February of 2025. I beat the Tampa Bay Times on that story by 4 months, and I was nobody. I'm just a guy. I was just a guy with a new startup, media platform, right? So they swooped in with their big name, but the problem is they're owned by I can't remember who they're owned by. It's a not-for-profit, the Poynter Institute. That's who it is. And the Poynter Institute is taking money from the Koch brothers, the Koch Foundation, right? So I figured this out when I was trying to figure out why they were taking so long. But anyway, so that's Tampa Bay Times, right? Poynter Institute.
And it's Poynter for people in the chat.
Poynter. And then we've got the local media channels, and none of them will respond to my. I sent them all out copies of my, my anti-gerrymander lawsuit. Bupkis. I've heard cricket. It's crickets, right? They won't. They are suppressing my campaign. They're suppressing all the campaigns of Democrats that aren't the DNC favorite.
WFLA is owned by Nexstar, and then Scripps is WFTS, and then Tegna is WTSP. The flagship daily newspaper is owned by the Poynter Institute, and you have Fox and CBS. So you have this,
and we got Spectrum,
and you have Spectrum. So literally, this is where we are. This is the reality, everybody. This is the fact that you cannot trust even your local TV outlet except for the weather report, because anything that has to do with political conversation, international news, it's already I'm going to literally use the term here because it's whitewashed.
Yeah. And guess what? Speaking about
whitewashed.
This particular gerrymander law, right? Guess who got called on Morning Joe on MSNBC to talk about this gerrymander? Not me, the guy that literally filed, the only one that's brought a lawsuit, the only candidate in a 7-way primary here. They brought my opponent on, who's the DNC favorite, Lee LeGray, and she got to talk about a lawsuit she's doing nothing about other than talking, right? So it's even MSNBC. It's infected all the mainstream media.
This is why we do lives on Substack,
Yeah, it's the independent media. It's the independent media. Thank you, by the way, for bringing me on. I appreciate it.
Oh, no, it's my pleasure. Thanks I'm glad that we were able to get hooked up between, I'm glad that it was Walter, right, that set us up, I think.
I was American Citizen.
It was American Citizen, right? Right.
She's been banned. She's been banned by Substack now.
Yes, she has.
Which ticks me off. She's a treasure.
We're
going to figure out how to bring her back in a different persona.
Yeah, right.
How good is the algorithm, right? Really, we can beat the algorithm. Just to get back to the two prongs. So we've got a geographic gerrymander that's unconstitutional, right? The Supreme Court of Florida ruled back, I think it was 2012, that you can't cross Tampa Bay. Boom, right? And
so how are they getting away? So how are they getting away with that?
I don't know how they got away with Wave 1 in 2022. I really don't. I was just.
that was constitutional. That was part of the right.
Yes. I don't know how they got away with it. Maybe the Democrats just didn't have the stones to take it on enough back then. Wow. I don't know. I was new to the county. I had just moved back down in 23, so I didn't know. But as far as this one, the difference between Mark Elias's lawsuit and mine is his is a shotgun broadside statewide, right? Number one. Mine is laser focused on District 13, particularly Pinellas County, which includes District 13 voters that are in, and just some voters, before the map was redrawn again, were in Pinellas County that got moved across Tampa Bay too. So mine is, think of it this way. You remember that Texas judge that ordered that methylprestone couldn't be mailed out, right? To anybody. So one judge in Texas stopped methylprestone from being mailed out across the entire United States. One judge with a stroke of a pen, boom, right? But when Democrats brought lawsuits, the compromise Supreme Court said, "Oh no, you can't apply those things, countrywide, right?" So in this case, I flipped the script. I said, with this lawsuit, what I've done, and this is the strategy, is I've just handed a single Pinellas County Sixth Circuit Court judge the power to stop the map all across Florida. But because he lives here in Pinellas County, and because this judge has been through 2 hurricanes just like the rest of us, and he's watched people lose their homes, right? He sees this map, and I plead this in in my lawsuit. He sees this map. It's splitting the Barrow Islands Government Council, the Big C, right in Reddington, the Reddington Shores, Reddington Beach, and across Seminole. And so he's splitting the Barrow account, the Big Barrow Island Government Council. He's splitting it right down the middle because it goes all the way up to Clearwater Beach. So it's halfway up the Gulf Coast in Pinellas County. It's just got split in half, and that's been around since 1940, in many, many decades. And of course, and then he's deporting about 103,000 Pinellas County voters to District 16, right? And where the votes aren't going to matter. Nobody's votes, none of these deported votes are going to matter given the makeup of District 16. So in Mark Elias's case, he's focused more on, he's got the geography stuff, but he's focused more on the opposite of protecting an incumbent, because the incumbent, for example, in District 14 is Kathy Castor, a Democrat. So it hurts Kathy Castor. It hurts the Democrat. Whereas so he's not touching the incumbent protection part like I am. So we're coming at it at different angles that there's some overlap.
So
but each one has its value.
Okay, but at the end of the day, this is so beyond the pale, because we used to do these redistrictings under the Constitution, was supposed to be done once every 10 years. When we had our census, the country is redistricted based on the Reapportionment Act of 1929, and that's how this stuff gets done.
Yeah, it's science, it's the law, and it's science, and it's math. It's math. It's not complicated.
So, we spent a lot of time talking about the redistricting map. This goes beyond just the redistricting map. This is about cheating, stealing elections, disenfranchising voters, disenfranchising communities, disenfranchising certain people who don't look like you and me. Okay. And even those that do look like you and me, but we are voting the color of your shirt, not the color of blood.
And by the way, I vote red, white, and blue.
That's what I vote.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I vote Constitution. I vote for the rule of law, for institutions that are supposed to work for people. And I think what they're doing is, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're the one running, but this is my interpretation of the electorate right now. You can, when you start to do things from a policy side that have negative effect on populations, that people start to see that, listen, my life's not really getting any better. And if anything, it's getting worse. And you're literally advertising that you're stealing from my treasury. You're stealing my taxpayer dollars. You're going to give insurrectionists who are convicted $1 million, which we all know is basically not only just the steal, is a theft, but it's also to fund a private army for 28, so they can do it again.
The grift is good. The grift is good.
Right. The grift is great. Right. Let's make America grift again. MAGA. Right. Oh, and make America grifting again.
Yeah. Let's start riffing.
Right? But and just, I mean, I feel like I'm like Walter here. I'm channeling like anger, but there gets to a point when you turn that anger into activation. Mm-hmm. And it's that transition where you start. Look what happened in Bolivia the other day. The country did a 2-day strike, or I think it was a 2-week strike. I forgot what it was. And the president, who was pro-Trump, fled the country. President Paz from Bolivia.
Just like Bolsonaro in Brazil did.
Right.
That, right? Yeah.
Look what happened in Hungary. This is something that, wasn't an appropriate time for our 250th anniversary of our independence from a king and a tyrant and an authoritarian type government in Imperial England? What a wonderful time for us to revolt again. Not with bloodshed, but with our vote. And to make a statement across the board that the pendulum swung too far this way. We need to swing it back the other direction. because we need to correct. Americans have, like there's always been this thing. And I remember, I think Robert Reich sent this years ago on the Colbert Report when Stephen had his show on the Colbert Report. He said, when the poor and the underserved have had enough, they rebel against the wealthy. So Colbert's statement was, well, don't you think that maybe the super wealthy should just kind of give what they're asking for now versus having it all taken back from them later when it's worse? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like, just if you give a little bit now, maybe you ease the bleeding a little bit. You don't have to tie off the artery, but just slow it down. And they have no intention of doing that. You can see them not even coming close to doing that. And I'm kind of going off on a tangent here, but it's really, this doesn't make any sense logically anymore, because we're just talking about visceral anger, and it's about not just the cost, it's the cost, it's the chaos and the corruption.
If I could, Eric, I'd like to touch on the affordability emergency. I'll focus on Florida, but this applies everywhere, and particularly in Florida, like the worst hurricane state, right? The most prone to hurricane state, where the biggest natural resource we have is the sun, right? Ron DeSantis turned down $350 million of solar subsidies because it was a part of the Biden, whatever that bill was called, the Build Back America or whatever it was called, bill, right? Just like Trump, vacated or walked away from the Iran nuclear deal because it was the Obama deal, and now look what he's doing now, right? So you think about solar energy, $350 million wasted that could have been used to deploy solar retro kits on the homes of Florida's, capturing all that sunshine, reducing their utility bills by what, 20, 25, 30%, I'm not sure, the amount. That's an affordability issue. They got Duke Energy in the lobby in the pockets of DeSantis and his people, and
FPL,
and
which is the most profitable energy company in the country, by the way.
So how do you fix that? For just as one example, in Congress, you elect me, folks. I don't know if you have any in District 13 on the call. You vote for me. I'll beat Luna. I'm pretty sure I'm the only candidate in this race that can beat Luna, because she's going to have unlimited funds, and it's not going to be about money, right? It's going to be about belief system, plan of action, strategy, and milestones and vision. And so you elect me, you put me in DC, and we start executing leverage the leverage that we have in Congress to make DeSantis pay if he doesn't take the money. If you're not going to take $350 million,
done in January, it won't be him. It'll be somebody else.
Well, hopefully it'll be Jolly.
Hopefully,
yeah, we'll see.
Reluctantly on my end, hopefully, but
I think I don't.
I don't want to pass judgment. I should retract that statement.
Okay.
Let me walk that back.
Yeah. Reserve judgment.
Yes,
and
I'll reserve.
Yeah. I would recommend that.
I yield back the floor.
So that's just the utility bill. These are like kitchen.
So what do you tell people in Tampa? Okay, now your energy provider is different than mine, I believe, right? You have Duke Energy, right?
Yes.
I happen to know for a fact that Florida Power and Light, which pretty much runs the rest of the state, their quiet goal is to get to 30 cents per kilowatt hour by 2032. That's equivalent to what they're paying in California. Right now I'm at about 16.5 cents per kilowatt hour. They're talking about doubling my electric bill between now and 2032.
Sounds like our car insurance or
yeah, right. And so my question here is, that's a state local issue. That's not a federal issue. So this is where I've always said elections are consequences. Like every election is a consequence because of the local leadership. You're talking about 20 House Republican seats versus 8 Democratic seats right now. This map flips it to what? 22-6, I think it does.
27. No, it takes us down to 4.
4. So it goes. It goes to 24-4. How is that representing Florida? It doesn't.
No.
You know, and like this is they would rather burn the country down than share anything. They would rather burn the country. So I mean, just in the general scheme of things, you were in the Air Force, or they've burned the civil service, they've torched the NIH, they've torched the CDC, they're burning down the Department of Education, they're literally burning down the Forestry Service, they've literally burned down the Department of Agriculture, they're burning through the Treasury. I mean, this is Project 2025 literally coming full circle right in front of everybody. And everybody's like, well, how did this happen? Because we fucking told you so.
Yeah, Ann just asked on the chat if Anna Polina Luna was the one that gave the private tour of the Russians. Yes, she did. Yes, she did. We covered that earlier. That, when it's one thing to just do some Russians, right? But it's another thing to give a tour without registering that you're lobbying on behalf of Russia, by the way, under OFAC, to give a private tour to two sitting Duma members into the speaker's office without even telling the speaker you're doing it, right? That's like you're a lobbyist for Putin and his people. That it's worse than you think. And of course, I want to talk about child sex trafficking right now and Luna, right? When I launched my campaign this time, I started by declaring war on child sex trafficking, and the enablers of the Epstein class. Look at who's flipped on Trump over the Epstein files and the victims, right? Marjorie Taylor Greene flipped, Nancy Mace flipped, Lauren Boebert flipped, Luna is now sole queen of the guardian of the pedophiles. Right. And I put out a press release with that about this.
Well, don't forget about Ashley Moody.
Yeah. So when I talk about, I'm a cyber guy, right? So cyber executive, I ran the DoD global cyber deployment for continuous cyber monitoring. Every U.S. and every Navy ship back in the 2011. So I bring this concept of vulnerabilities and exploits, right? There's cyber vulnerabilities, cyber exploits, but people have vulnerabilities. Institutions have vulnerabilities. Our democracy has vulnerabilities. And Putin and Z have developed these exploits to exploit all our vulnerabilities. And that's what we're seeing right now. They've hacked our system. Ugh. And so Luna's number one vulnerability is child sex trafficking and her enablement of it. All her female cohorts, pretty much in the original Freedom Caucus, she's the last one standing. There is no space in between her and Trump on the Epstein.
Right, because Maria Salazar was elected in 2016, so she wasn't part of that original Freedom Caucus. But she sold out her Venezuelan population in Miami.
Did she?
Oh yeah, she did, big time. So
there's that guy, what's his name, Gonzalez, that just got convicted by the Trump DOJ for an unregistered foreign agent taking money from Venezuela, from the Maduro regime. So guess what? That's a precedent, right? That guy, Chris Gleason, is bringing. That's in his complaints now. Now we have a precedent of taking foreign money without registering as a foreign agent.
Yeah, but when has this Department of Justice ever cared about precedent?
Well, this is just like 3 weeks ago it happened, right?
Well, I know that,
and he's a Republican.
5 years, but they don't follow the rules, so it doesn't matter. They don't care about the rules. They don't think
I agree, but that's what's so odd about this one-off, right? I was really surprised that.
But his name was Gonzalez. It wasn't Smith, and it wasn't Trump, and it wasn't a white guy. It was a immigrant.
He's a MAGA congressman.
Yeah, I get it, but he wasn't white. He wasn't part of the white pedophile protectors. He wasn't,
I didn't think of it in that way. The last name.
Here's the thing. We live in I've had to come to some very hard terms the last few months about the fact that like it's a very white supremacist world that I mean, I was a Gen Xer. I mean, I grew up respecting institutions, government had a function, this is what it is, you follow the rules, you play, you do your thing. I'm not there anymore. I'm sorry, I can't. This lack of leadership and these false flag moments and the grifting and the corruption and the unchecked bribery and corruption and theft literally right in the open. These are impeachable offenses to every single sitting member of Congress, to the sitting Supreme Court justices, to the cabinet secretaries, to the undersecretaries, to the federal court judges that have been appointed. This is like insane. Like this whole thing has to be cleaned. Like we literally need like a national enema.
Well, I call it an emergency security patch, right?
Yeah.
We have these critical vulnerabilities that have been exploited by never before seen exploits, right? So they call those zero-day exploits, right? So putting a president, a Manchurian Russian-controlled drone into the White House, that's an unprecedented, that's a zero-day exploit. Russia's never done that. Nobody's ever done that before, right?
Well, it's happened.
Right? Having a president convicted of sexual assault felonies, or at least civilly, and then convicted of multiple, 34 counts of felony fraud. We've never had a convicted felon president, right? So the times are what they are, but the Democratic Party leadership is not rising to the moment. They are not, we got Hakeem, nice guy. I loved him during the first impeachment hearing, but him and Chuck Schumer and the DNC and the Democratic Party elite and their PACs and everything, they haven't risen to the occasion. Too many are taking tainted money. Some of them are taking Chinese, but there's APAC supporting the war.
But I don't want to focus just on APAC because there's a lot of other evil money that's being spent here that we shouldn't just focus on APAC. There's a lot of other bad
Musk's
money, the Koch family, Sinclair Broadcasting, Nexstar. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on.
Heritage Foundation.
Heritage Foundation. Yep. I mean, like, there's a whole lot of like bad here, and unfortunately, John, I really appreciate you. I gotta get back. I have clinic coming up soon, so I gotta get ready for my afternoon clinic. But it's thank you so much for joining me today. Tell everybody how they can get a hold of your campaign. I'll put it in the chat. And
it's johnforpinellas.com. John FOR Pinellas.com. Now, as far as donating to my campaign, even if you don't think you want to vote for me, and even if you don't live here, as goes Florida, as goes District 13, so does America, right? So even if you don't want to vote for me as a candidate, you can still donate to support the lawsuit. I've dropped $800 out of my Social Security check to fund this lawsuit to protect your voting rights here in Pinellas County.
Have you had any conversations with Elias's law group about merging the lawsuits?
I've reached out and crickets so far.
Okay.
Maybe you could help with that.
I don't know Mark at all. I can certainly send an email, but I don't
if ever there was a couple of lawsuits to coordinate on and mutually support, it's these two.
I mean, he's a bigger fish in the pond, and he's got more resources than
a dude on Social Security.
Well, yeah. So, what about the only last question I had was basically, I don't think this has ever been done, but I don't think like a class action lawsuit against the governor by the citizens of the state.
No, absolutely. I'd be doing that right now, but I can't without a lawyer. You can't do a class action without a lawyer. So I'd already be doing that. And by the way, I've invited.
We're going to listen to us anyway. It's not like it's.
Just by the way, two of my opponents are lawyers. I've invited both of them to join me in this lawsuit because they can as lawyers, and it can be. I can't have multiple plaintiffs if I'm not a lawyer.
Right.
So both of them have not gotten back to me. right?
Is this just like they just don't want to? I mean, this is where the intersection of politics and money, right? This is that conversation where we have to get the money out of politics because they're so afraid of losing a donor by standing up for civil right liberties that are enshrined in the document that gave them their freedom and their citizenship with the day they were born. I don't understand these concepts of why people think that these are blurred lines. These have to be hard stops. And it's just the way that we have to get past all this. Listen, these are American citizens. I don't agree with a lot of what they've done, but they can stay here, but they're going to have to pay for what they've done. There has to be some accountability or we are totally, pardon my French, fucked. I mean, we're kind of semi-fucked now, but if there's no accountability when all of this is over, we are really fucked.
Yeah, it's the difference between semi and full mental fucked, I think.
Yeah.
So I just put up 2 ways you can donate to my campaign and for this lawsuit to defend your civil rights, your voting rights. You can donate directly to my campaign via Zelle at john@johnforpinellas.com or via Act Blue at the Act Blue donation link that's up there. So.
You know, it's funny. I was watching the chat and I see all these stories of people saying, yeah, I've talked to my brother in Florida. I talked to my brother in Pennsylvania or Michigan, or I talked to family members who laugh at me, who don't think that things are as bad as they are. They're, you know, we have gotten to the point now where people have drunk the Kool-Aid. They've snorted the Coke. They've done the heroin. And they won't recognize the fact that they're an addict. And
I wrote a book about this, what you're talking about right now. Back in 2019, I published a book, a short book. It's a 20-minute, 30-minute read called The Grand Unifying Theory of Putin Trump. Pay no attention to the white Russian behind the curtain. It's Vladimir Putin's fascist, race-baiting, Wizard of Oz strategy to take down America without firing a shot. I wrote that in 2019. That's when I flipped from being a moderate Republican to a Democrat. I realized the GOP was captured. There's nothing I could do to save it. And that's when Marco Rubio was my senator, actually. And so that's up on Amazon. And if anybody wants a copy, like just a PDF file, send me an email and I'll send you one at john@johnforpinellas.com. And I covered that exactly. It's an addiction, and we need to treat them. All of us have lost a family member or friend to the MAGA siren, right? Song. And so how do we approach them?
That is the saddest thing that literally, and it wasn't like they died in an accident or they were sick. This is
it happened. I will say it happened in my second marriage. So it's very, very personal. It happened in the span of like 3 freaking months. I didn't understand it when it was happening, and I'm not going to go into that, but I will just say that I've been fighting this fight since before 2016, in my way, silently, quietly, and I've been working the problem, and now I'm running. So now I'm a semi-public figure. I'm taking all kinds of hits, right? So I'm a big boy, got my big boy pants on. So I'm out here on the bleeding edge of democracy, right? I'm taking the hits for everybody, right? I'm going to take all this hate and I'm going to ingest it for you, cram it down, and eat it, and so that you don't have to, right? And all you need to do is invest some time. I need volunteers. I need to raise donations. I got to raise a little over 10K between now and June 12th so I can qualify and get on the ballot. So I have an immediate campaign emergency right now in the next few weeks. I got to get on the ballot. I don't want to have to take out another loan just to get on the ballot. So I did
you
that.
Shouldn't have to. Like if you want to run, you should. It shouldn't cost you your financial future to run in this country, to be a representative for your community. That is the saddest statement we have had in a long time, other than the one we just mentioned. And I want to just thank you for sharing that part of your life with me and with our audience and with the people out here, because I know we are Substack. The people who see our stuff on Substack, we're one big family. We are one big community that supports each other, and it's a safe space. I know there's a lot of trolling that comes in. I'm dealing with it too as a semi-public figure as well, and
I'd like to share my thoughts just to close on
please.
the issue of how to approach someone that you've lost in this way. I'm not much of a Bible thumper, but I was raised Catholic, a big Italian family, and I really didn't like going to church and Sunday school. I was a Dennis the Menace fidgeter, right? And but at 60 odd years old, I'm 66 now, a lot of those messages stuck. And more than any one other message, it's this Jesus' story, parable of the prodigal son. And if we think of our brethren, our MAGA brethren, as lost, right? They've lost their way. But if we hold out our hand, the story of the prodigal son, which I never got as a kid, is an exit ramp, if you will, right? You're welcome back home into the arms of civil society, right? You will be. We will celebrate your return, right? You were lost, but now you are found, right? And I think if we approach it in a way that doesn't make them feel like you're attacking their identity, because that's the thing. It's psychologically, it's the Trump loyalty is now their identity. They see themselves as that's part of their identity. And I still love you, right? You still love them. You're just offering them a hand. And go out and buy a little wooden cross like the kind that Jesus might have made, the carpenter, and even just hand them a cross and don't say anything. Don't hand them a shiny cross like they wear, like Carolyn Levitt wears in the press briefings. Just a little cross. I run across one at a local market in Gulfport, and just hand them a little wooden cross. Just pierce that veil, right? Pierce the veil of the MAGA.
I think it comes down. I think it also comes down to just connecting with people. Like, we've lost the art of connecting to people, and this fucking thing has really created some major societal problems, but it can also be a solution, because you don't have to text on this. You can actually pick up the phone and say, "Hey, John, hey, listen, I know it's been a while since we talked. I came across your number in my contacts. I know it's been a number of years since we spoke, but I just wanted to see how you're doing, and just wanted to reach out and say hi, and, please give me a call back when you get a minute." Like, that little gesture can change one life at a time. Because then your friend might just say, "You know what? Shit, I haven't heard from him. Let me give him a call. Let me just see how he's doing." Like, it might open up a door, and that's all that we require, is to open up a door to somebody's heart. And we need more of that.
Agreed.
From everybody, me included. I need to do more of that too. It's
all right. So we got about 60 people on here. So each of our listeners, our watchers, I'm giving you a quota, 10 people. Right? Reach out to 10 people. Approach
you haven't
them
spoken to in the last 90 days.
Yeah, and just re-engage. That's your quota. That's your quota.
I love finishing on that. That's such a great way to finish. It's a bellissimo. But there you go.
Be a closer. Be a closer.
John, again, thank you so much for spending this time with me. I need to get going, but again, thank you for sharing your story. Thanks for going over the redistricting map with Florida. Thank you for your patriotism. Thank you for your service to this country, and thank you to the service of the people in Pinellas County that hopefully you will be representing them in the 123rd Congress. Hopefully.
Is that what we're up to?
I think that's where we're at. I think it's 120. I think so. I
I
have to double check my Wikipedia, but I think that's where we're at.
The only number I can remember right now is 8647. Come and get me, DOJ.
Everybody have a great rest of the day. You can find me on Substack at drlullove.substack.com. You'll see me Thursday on the Diogenes Club with Nick and Walter and Evan. And you can read my stuff on blueamp.co. I have another article coming out on the the bill that you haven't seen coming yet. And this is about the NIH funding cuts and how this affects our future healthcare. So again, I'm Dr. Eric Lullove. This is John Liccione. Thank you so much for having us today. And everybody have a great rest of the day. And please be proactive, be vigilant, do not quit, and keep hope alive.
Yeah, and you can find me on Substack at The Bleed by John Liccione. So you can follow me there. And thanks for having me on, Eric. This has really been great.
Oh, it's been great. We'll do this again soon.
Yeah, let's do it again. Let's bring Lev Parnas up on here with me. He's running too, right?
I'll see what I can do.
Yeah, he just had me on his live the other day.
Oh, good.
Thanks for having me on.
All right. Everybody have a great day. Talk to everybody soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.